how does a good man live? What is virtue? When does a man's obligation to those around him exceed his obligation to himself? And that's a question that Jor-El asks Clark in the TV version of this movie when he goes to the Fortress of Solitude. It's not in the actual cut of the movie.
How does a good man live? What is virtue? When does a man's obligation to those around him exceed his obligation to himself? Well, these are not simple questions.
But that question is what's at the core of the character of Superman. Choosing to do good, not for self-interest, Marvin, or for self-preservation, but because you can.
Yeah.
Now, before the 1970s, the concept of a big-budget live-action superhero movie, superhero blockbuster, was non-existent. And all of that changed in 1978 when a film dared to tell the world, you'll believe a man could fly. And that's Richard Donner's Superman the movie. When that came out, it changed everything we know about comic book characters on screen. It's the first of its kind. It paved the way for everything we're getting now with the MCU, the DCU. You know, this movie brought Superman to life in a way that fans of the comic books at the time and the creators both only could have dreamt of. And right. Christopher Reeve's performance as Superman wasn't just good, but as I'm sure Dusty could agree with, probably the definitive version thus far. In order to properly talk about this movie, I think it's important that we have to first talk about the character of Superman. But Marvin, let me ask you a question. If you had the ability to fly, shoot lasers out of your eyes, you had super strength and a host of other like shocking and fantastic abilities, would you choose to sit in traffic every day?
Can't say I would.
Would you choose to let some fucking bully punk you?
Probably not.
Would you choose to help a kid get their cat out of a tree?
I probably would do that.
Okay, but you'd beat the shit out of the bully.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's why Superman is different from everyone else. Because he has all these abilities, but chooses to do good and only good. And in the film, you could see they don't go too deep into it, but there's one little brief conversation between him and Jonathan Kent, which establishes the fact that like his morality is not only given to him by Jor-El, but also mostly his Earth parents, Jonathan and Martha Kent.
Is it showing off and somebody's doing the things he's capable of doing? Is it a bird showing off when it flies?
No. No, now you listen to me. And there's one thing I do know, son, and that is you are here for a reason.
I love how they showed how he was considering like all the things you think he would be taking advantage of, like the strength and the speed.
Yep.
And then they like you said, they showed his dad keeping him level-headed and explaining how he has a higher purpose. Yeah. And just showing off and scoring touchdowns and shit.
Yep. Just because you could run faster and throw the ball further doesn't mean you should. There's one line of dialogue in all of comics that remains the most important in all of comic books, not just MCU, but not just Marvel, rather, in everything. And that is, with great power, there must also come great responsibility. And no hero in the history of comic books embodies that quote more than Superman.
Not even Spider-Man.
Not even Spider-Man.
Don't even come close.
Not even close. Nobody comes close. If one character comes close to Superman, it's probably Captain America.
Yep.
But even he was flawed. Well, not flawed. I mean, he's
come on,
human after all.
Cap's not flawed.
He was flawed in the way though that when he went back into time and stayed with his girl instead of coming back and continuing to help.
Well, no, he passed the torch. That was
a little more selfish though. Superman wouldn't have did that.
That's true. That's fair. That's a fair point. So, truth, justice, and a better tomorrow, Marvin. That's the new slogan. It used to be truth, justice, and the American way, but people are starting to realize the American way kind of sucks balls. But not really, because American values, like, America was founded on a few principles that Superman stands for. But better tomorrow, I like. It's because it's a little bit more meaningful. Yeah. But Superman is, and you watched this documentary with me, so you know a little bit, but Superman's the embodiment of, like, cultural trauma that was brought to life by two Jewish kids who they took the ideals of Nietzsche's The Übermensch. The Übermensch is basically a goal for humanity to set for itself, like to be a giga-human, like a meta-human, better than human. When Siegel and Schuster created Superman, that was kind of the vision that they had in their head. No matter what medium that his stories are told on, the one thing that always is maintained is the humanity at the heart of his character. Isn't that so beautiful that despite being the least human among us, he is the most human?
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, it is surprising, but it also is not that surprising because he was raised by like humans.
Yep.
And not like scummy humans either, like
right.
pretty good humans. So
yeah.
Yep. Yeah, he got some good lessons. Like Jor-El, I think he what did he say? He said something along the lines of, "Don't be ashamed of your vanity. You want to embrace it some because it's okay to feel that way. However, how you act upon it is really that's really the important lesson here, because it's okay to want to be the champion of the football team or want to be the star or want to be in the limelight, but there are more important things than that vanity. So it's okay to feel vanity, but just don't act on it. Be a good person."
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And these stories that tell the best Superman stories that have ever existed, they understand that they understand not only why Superman like loves the world, but why the world loves Superman. And there's a ton of examples to point to, but we're here to talk about Superman the movie. But I think that Superman the movie I don't think there's a better version that demonstrates this. And when I was watching it for this podcast, there's a smile on my face the whole fucking time, and tears here and there.
There's some cheese in there.
Of course, but but still, like you can't help but smile. Like it's cheesy because it's fucking good. That's because
some of it's the limitations of the film at the time.
Yeah, right.
Oh yeah, don't get me started. But I didn't know the origin story was so deep. Not gonna lie, with like the politics.
Oh yeah.
The people that they were like banishing and that sort of stuff. I didn't know it was so deep.
You haven't seen the last of them yet, Marvin. Go pop in Superman 2. But
did you not see Man of Steel, Marvin?
Nah, I didn't see Man of Steel.
Never watch it. When I say cheesy, I'm specifically talking about the fact that as a culture, as a society, I feel like people think like good and hopefulness is corny. Because Superman gets a lot of criticism, as does Cap, of like, oh, he's just a goody two-shoes, he's a tool of America, blah, 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 blah.
Boy Scout.
But there's nothing cheesy about that, in my opinion. And the character of Superman, he is hope, he's optimism, he is good. Like, and that just serves as a reminder that we have to like always rise up and embrace the best of us. And again, people might think that's like an ideal of like a bygone era from like the 30s and 40s, but I would argue that it's not. It's something that we should nurture and grow as a global community in 2023. Like and that's why, like I say, I have a smile on my face and I cried, and I feel like you can't help but get emotional when you watch somebody just do good shit. That's what makes superheroes so great. I think this movie is the textbook on how to make a Superman movie. I think Christopher Reeves is the textbook on how to be Superman. I talked about earlier in the podcast how I would like to see the next Superman be a relatively unknown actor, because the character of Superman is so larger than life. Like he's a modern day like Hercules, like right? Like he's a human cultural like fable, basically, is what it is.
Right.
And you put a famous actor into that, and it kind of like takes that away. And Christopher Reeves was relatively unknown when he took this role. I think he was only like 24 when he took the role. Interesting. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but the actor that played young Clark in the Smallville stuff, it was actually Jeff East was his name. I don't know if you noticed, but they dubbed Christopher Reeves' voice over his acting.
Just talking about placing like big names into these roles.
Yeah.
I think there's like two ways that you should be trying to do it when you play. Like if it is like a big role like Superman, I do think a lesser known person is better. I think some of the big name actors get away with the roles that they're placed into, because like I look at like Wolf of Wall Street, for example. It's not like a very widely known story. So like when you place a big name actor into like a role that's like not so significant, I guess, like that, it's easier for it to get, like it's easier for them to come across as not just, oh, this is just Leonardo.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the reason I wanted to, open up by talking about Superman is because, like, this movie nails it. It nails all those things that I just said, those attributes that make Superman Superman. And, you know, talk about me smiling through the whole movie. This motherfucker never stops smiling.
Yeah.
Like, no matter what he's doing, there's no job too small. He'll fucking rescue a cat out of a tree. He'll fucking stop some fucking giga criminal. He'll fight some fucking aliens just as powerful as him, and he always does it with a smile on his face. And that's where Dusty means. I think that's what Dusty means when he says cheesy, but it's not cheesy. It's fucking, it's Superman's thing to be like, stay safe, miss. I hope this doesn't put you off flying. Statistically, it's still the safest way to travel. Or like, or don't thank me, Mr. President. We're all in this together. And then like flies off. Like that's Marvin, you mentioned you didn't know the lore was that deep. So let's talk about it. So this movie opens up exploring the backstory of Krypton and its eventual demise and how Superman ended up on Earth to begin with. And we see that his father, Jor-El, is a very high member of society. He's a scientist. And he warns... Well, not only does he arrest and imprison General Zod for his attempted insurrection, but he also is warning the people of Krypton that of the planet's eventual demise, to which they do not take kindly, and Jor-El has no choice but to send his only son to Earth. Very Jesus parallel-y, but that's fine.
Yeah.
And I love the scene with Jor-El and his wife when they're having their little back and forth, and it's like she's saying all like the negative things about his experience, and he's saying like the positive ones, but he's like trying to convince himself that he'll be okay, and she's like, oh, he'll be an outcast, and he's like, he'll be indestructible, and she, you know, that little back and forth. But that line, oh my God, will stay with you all the days of your life. All this I bequeath you, my son. Ooh, man, gets me every time.
Yeah.
So good.
It was pretty convenient timing of the planet blowing up, but I'll take it for the sake of the drama.
No, that's why he sends him.
I know, but they said that it was going to blow up, but they didn't say it was going to blow up like literally 5 minutes.
Like that second?
5 minutes later, yeah.
That's fair, yeah. That's fair.
That's one thing where we had this discussion offline a little bit, and I think Zack Snyder did some things really well in Man of Steel, which Dan's original retort was, no, he didn't fucking do anything right. The movie was terrible. But then he kind of agreed with me, like, Snyder did a decent job of building up, like, what's wrong with Krypton, what's going on with Krypton, and why Krypton ended and they sent him away.
I can see both, like how you said they fleshed out Krypton more being beneficial, but I think they explained it enough in this. And like they showed how the people of Krypton, like they were like susceptible to like the ego, just like humans are. And like you said it was like the Jesus story, but I saw it was like fucking like Titanic. Like they thought
that too.
They were indestructible. Like,
yeah, I mean, and it's very important to the story of Superman because it's why Jor-El sends him to Earth to begin with. It's like, which also to his credit, Snyder fleshed that part out pretty well too, in terms of Jor-El's messaging to Cal of like, well, I'm sending you specifically to Earth because they're a younger civilization than we are, and you could guide them to not fall to the same mistakes that Krypton did.
Yep.
And you see that here too. It's like, it's why we're, you know, and it's the line, oh man, I'm going to get choked up. The scene, my favorite scene of the whole movie is when he meets Jor-El and then they go on that little like journey through space.
Live as one of them, Kal-El. To discover where your strength and your power are needed. To always hold in your heart the pride of your special heritage. They can be a great people, Kal-El. They wish to be. They only lack the light to show the way. For this reason, above all, their capacity for good. I have sent them you, my only son.
So he's meant to be a guiding light, the hope. He's meant to serve as a beacon of light and what humanity should aspire to be.
Yeah.
So, you know, you mentioned hubris, and that's what the people of Krypton fell to, and that's what we deal with every day here.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because it's such a dichotomy to Superman himself, because it would be easy to say like, oh, he's better than everybody else, but he's not better than the rest of us. He's just the best of us. if that makes sense.
Yep. Yeah.
And this movie encapsulates that. He never acts above or better than anybody. He does everything with complete warmth and sincerity. And like I said, he always does it with a smile on his face. There's no job too small for Superman. This is actually, I think, really evident in that scene with Lois when he does the interview with her on her rooftop.
Oh, yeah.
For the longest time, I thought that shit was super cheesy. I still think the flying, like, dream sequency, like, telekinetic bullshit was kind of dumb. But
it was kind of Aladdin-y.
Yeah, but the interview itself, I think, is so great because when the interview starts, she just sees him as like this strange fucking alien dude with abilities. But as the conversation goes on, she realizes he's just like a kind and caring dude who wants to like help people. So I really like that scene between him and Lois because that's when it first like kind of humanizes him in the film, and that's what makes Superman so relatable. We said it a few minutes ago. It's that his humanity, despite not being a human, his humanity is what makes him super, right? It's not his flight, it's not his laser beams, it's not all that good stuff.
That scene, I agree that she was like I guess attracted to his niceness or kindness or whatever, but I think it was the allure too of him just being like Superman.
No, it for sure
because
was.
Clark was as nice because he's the same fucking guy as Superman, but he wasn't Superman. He was like he was more familiar, and it's like people are attracted to like more unobtainable things and something like that. I guess.
I mean, I'd fuck Superman over Clark. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, but
especially if he fucking caught me as I was plummeting to my death.
True. Yeah.
No,
I mean,
she let go. That was her fault.
A character. Like, this is one thing I love about this Superman is like, this is a Clark first, Superman second, where he comes in as Clark Kent, and you see him as a clumsy kind of
bumbling idiot.
Don't know what bumbling idiot.
Yeah.
He's nice. He's honest. He's genuine. You like him, but you also are like, I mean, he's kind of a dullard or a buffoon. He takes that character of Clark seriously. Whereas in Snyder, it's totally different. And even with Singer, it's different. Yeah. And Christopher Reeves nailed it. Donner nailed it. Like they did Clark Kent right. Christopher Reeves and Donner himself really basically encapsulated that heart that is at the core of Superman. And Donner has, I watched some behind the scenes interviews and stuff, and Richard Donner said that he told the producers that if we could make, because, you know, this was the first time a big budget movie like this was ever made about a comic book character, but Donner was very adamant about doing the whole like relationship thing between him and Lois. And he said, like, if we can get that to work, if we could sell that, then the rest of the movie will be a fucking breeze.
I love the little things too with Clark Kent, how he's like when he's in Lois's apartment or whatever, and she goes to the bathroom, and when you can see the transition when he takes off his glasses and like he's not hunched over.
Yeah, you could see his posture
closed
change
anymore. He opens up. I also like how he was shouting out to her like, I have something to tell you in a Superman voice. Yeah. And like he was dealing with that, like that vanity thing we were talking about earlier. Like he was about to succumb almost, it felt like, and then he flipped the switch back.
In this movie, he's a newer Superman. Like he moves away from home, figures out who he wants to be, spends fucking 12 years with Jor-El getting like schooled on shit.
He gets to the Fortress of Solitude without hitchhiking. Yeah, and then he just goes to Metropolis. So he's very much finding himself not only as a superhero, but also as like a person. Like, who am I? Like, I grew up in fucking Kansas in the middle of nowhere, and now I'm in this big city. And so it's cool to see that. And again, it's not something fucking Snyder did well, because, you know, one of the defenses of the egregious fucking things in that movie is, oh, well, he's a new Superman. It's like, don't sell me that shit, because we see what a new Superman would be. He would just be growing into himself in terms of like his personality.
Right.
And his relationships and that sort of stuff. Yeah. He's never going to have to grow into being a superhero. That's not the case.
Yeah, Yeah, I'd be go through 12 years of fucking training.
Yeah, right.
I think you got it down pat at that point.
But something about this movie, I don't know if you felt this, Marvin, because we always joke around that you always have, you don't like older movies from the 70s or 80s because of, cheese. But something about this movie feels like very timeless. And I think it's probably more of the fact that it's just Superman itself, not the movie itself, but the character being timeless. And it's got like watching it today for the podcast, it still had the same amount of like wonder and awe that it had when I watched it when I was a fucking kid. My first introduction to this movie, my dad put it on for me, and I became obsessed with Superman, and he used to carry me around the house. Like I used to plank on his arms. He used to like hold, and he used to hold me out and like fly me around the house like Superman with the music going on in the background. And and that like still, I mean, I guess because it's a nice moment between me and my dad, but like it still resonates when I hear that fucking music swell up and all that stuff and all that like kindness and warmth and like how important that stuff is in the world. And, again, I think Donner's interpretation of the character just fucking completely nailed it. But beyond that stuff, I think one of the things that's most impressive about the movie is that it's a blockbuster in like every sense for the time, obviously. But it never sacrifices like the morals and the emotion of Superman and his relationship with the world for the sake of like simplicity or entertainment, which is something that Man of Steel was very guilty with. The only thing that I like about Man of Steel is the CGI and like seeing a modern day Superman like fucking flying and like all that cool shit that we have come to love because of modern technology. Yeah. But that movie doesn't have all like that movie very much leans on all that stuff in my opinion.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Completely carried by it. And like obviously you could tell when Superman flies off he's on like a wire, like sometimes he'll fly but then like his whole body like turns and shit. Yeah. But it's still like so literally the tagline, you'll believe a man can fly. I believe, baby. Marvin, do you believe?
I believe.
It looks pretty good for being 1978, honestly.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think it was definitely timeless. We've been mostly talking about like Christopher Reeves, but I think Luthor was really good in this movie too.
Nailed it. To the point of like Zack Snyder versus Donner. That's another thing where I think Snyder explained it better was Gene Hackman played Lex Luthor, and that he's already a brilliant criminal mind. Like the fact that he's like, oh yeah, Superman, come on in, it's open. And he has that series of tests where he tries to like blow him up, burn him, freeze him, all that shit. But once you get later on into the movie, like Lex Luthor has kryptonite and he's like, oh yeah, this is going to fucking, put this around your neck and you throw you in the water. Like they don't really explain like, and as somebody who's a fan of Superman, you already know that he has an affliction to kryptonite.
It's his allergy,
it's
basically.
Hurting. It's his allergy. They don't really explain that in the original, whereas Snyder kind of tries to explain it in that, well, there's some of the stuff that we gathered in the ocean. There's some kryptonite in here. Maybe that hurts him. We'll do some tests and figure it out. Like there's some things I think where Snyder did storytelling wise that it makes more sense to the audience that is unaware. If you're already aware, it doesn't matter. But if you're unaware, it kind of helps to have like, how did he know that kryptonite was going to hurt him, and where did he get the kryptonite?
Doesn't matter.
You don't know.
So they explained it a little bit, but it was definitely like plot holes as to why he would think a random meteorite would hurt him. Like,
See, I would disagree though, because he says it in the movie. He's the greatest criminal mind of our time. Doesn't matter how he knows because he's the greatest.
Sure, yeah.
That's it. Sure. It's as simple as that.
That's true. No, I guess that's fair. Is everyone on Krypton were they like a Superman in their own right, and Superman as we know it only became special because he went to Earth? Or
yes. So Jor-El.
So that's what I'm saying. So
they were all normal on Krypton.
Yeah,
but the
conditions were harsher. But they explain that the radiation from the younger son is going to empower his cells to make him indestructible. Well, to make him
that's how Snyder
defy gravity.
Snyder gives
to make him do these things.
Snyder gives us. Go ahead.
So my statement is correct.
Yes, he's only special on Earth.
Right.
Under the radiation of Earth's
the yellow.
In the comic books, it's Earth's yellow sun. But so Snyder gave it a little bit more of a scientific spin to it, where it's because Earth's sun is younger than Krypton's. It makes no fucking sense when you say it out. But
they explained it a little bit in the beginning of this. Like
I'm getting to that. But I'm saying Snyder says he gives it a more scientific answer, where it's like Earth's sun is younger, therefore your cells are drunk in its radiation, basically. And because of that, you have elevated abilities. Jor-El says it in this one too. It's like Earth's atmosphere will sustain him, and all that stuff, however he words it. Doesn't matter, Marvin. He's Superman.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter. So why try to find it?
Well, because so let me answer that. Because as the years have gone on, in the comic books, Superman gets a lot of criticism and a lot of fucking hate of like, he's too strong, he's fucking this, he has no real fucking weaknesses, blah 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 blah. But so over the years in the comic books, they've given him arbitrary weaknesses. You get kryptonite, you get fucking yellow kryptonite, you get red kryptonite.
There's so many kryptonite. Yeah, there's actually there's a pink kryptonite.
You get fucking gay. Is there what? I never heard of that one.
Yes.
You get who wrote that? Ben Shapiro. You get fucking you get his powers are limited if there's if it's a cloudy day. Or then you get ones where, like, I think it's currently in the comics. Ed would have to correct us in the comments. He knows better than me, but he has a new power they've given him called, I think it's like a supernova or something, where when he absorbs too much radiation, he has to like expel it, and it's like this huge blast, similar to fucking Soldier Boy. So like, it's over the years they've just given him these arbitrary weaknesses where he doesn't really need any because he has the ultimate weakness.
Right.
And the ultimate weakness, and this is the biggest thing for me, what makes Superman Superman, and I've said this before, when Jonathan Kent dies.
Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh.
You're just laughing at the guy at heart.
Nah, I've had a funny point about that, but go ahead.
At the funeral, Clark says to his mother, all the things I can do, all those powers, and I couldn't save him. That right there, that's his weakness. That's his conflict, is that despite everything that he can do, there's just some things he can't control. Yeah. So that Jonathan Kent death is such a huge moment in his life that makes him who he is.
Yeah.
And Zack Snyder completely fucked that up.
Well, no, was it? Okay, now I may be, because I watched all the Superman movies this weekend. I watched Man of Steel. I watched Superman Returns. When he's talking about we saved the farm from flooding, but all the water ran down to the next farm and they died, and everything was washed away. That was 78, right? That was Donner, right?
I don't remember that.
That wasn't. No, I don't know what the.
Maybe
fuck
that was
from.
Superman Returns.
I don't think so.
Well, they were talking about saving the farm, and because he was telling him a story about you can't save everybody. Maybe it was Snyder's. I don't know.
I don't recall that at all in anything.
But because I think because the storyline is, when you try and do something, it could cause a catastrophe.
Of course.
And people could get hurt. Mm-hmm. And you can try and save everybody you can. And even if you think you saved everybody, there's somebody downstream that's going to get hurt that you can't save. Like you can't save everybody was the message.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, listen, it's for a movie in the 70s with lack of technology and stuff. This movie fucking works.
Oh yeah.
It's a great fucking movie. The special effects are great for its time. The acting is great. We didn't mention really the cast, but we got Christopher Reeves as Superman, obviously. Margot Kidder, Lois Lane, she's fantastic. Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor, his little lackey, Ned Beatty.
Was so good.
Otis. Marlon Brando as Jor-El. He's the definitive Jor-El, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Who else is in this fucking movie? Terence Stamp as Zod. You don't really get to see that much of him. You will in the second movie eventually, but he's fucking brilliant. One thing about Lois Lane, too, that this movie kind of got right, I think, and I guess the Snyder version did a little bit, but she's not like this damsel, like in distress. She's a very strong and smart person who could handle her own shit.
Yeah.
She's an empowered woman.
Yes. Lois is a journalist. She is what a journalist should be in real life, like striving to topple big businesses and, predatory businesses, corporate corruption, and all this stuff. While Superman helps her with some of that stuff as Clark, he's doing a whole nother level of it. So I think Margot Kidder's portrayal of her was really great as well. Like you mentioned earlier, she's like attracted to Superman, and she is, but that attraction starts when she realizes that he's like a nice, warm person. It's not like, oh my God, he flies. Like it was never like that. You know what I mean? It wasn't the damsel thing. I think it is
a little bit of it.
You think so?
I think it's a little bit of both. Yeah.
Okay.
I honestly don't think Lois deserves Superman because of the way she interacts with Clark. Like if you don't like me at my Clark, you don't deserve me at the
That's
Superman.
fair. That's fair.
You don't. You just don't.
Let's talk about Richard Donner. May he rest in peace. Died last year or 2 years ago now, 2021. A titan of the film industry. He's done so many fucking banger movies, dude. It's like unbelievable. Obviously Superman being one of them. Superman 2, The Omen, fucking
love The Omen.
The Goonies, of course, Lethal Weapon, Scrooge,
banger.
Lethal Weapon 2, Lethal Weapon 3, Maverick, the poker movie. He's just
Martin Riggs is one of my favorite nonfiction characters.
What is?
Martin Riggs.
Oh, Riggs, yeah.
Lethal Weapon,
Yeah, so Richard Donner's a titan, and, you know, interesting enough, one of the co-writers of this movie was Mario Puzo, who is probably most famously known for writing the Godfather movies. Or adapting the books. Yeah. So this movie was a powerhouse smash-up at the time, and as you know, Marvin, that title sequence in the beginning, every time now, I lose my shit when Superman created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, knowing what those two guys went through for 40 fucking years, that they had to live in basically poverty and servitude. The guys who created literally the biggest cultural icon in human history, they didn't get credit until this fucking movie came out. Imagine how fucking powerful it was for them to see their names up on the big screen like that.
Right.
You know, some say Superman's irrelevant in modern culture. I think he's still relevant. I think truth and justice are always going to be important, and I think it's awesome that he represents a better path forward, not only for the American way, but for just the global community that we're a part of.
Yeah.
And
he's definitely relevant, dude. I know a few millionaires and billionaires that could probably take some notes out of Superman's handbook.
Elon Musk thinks he is Superman. That's the sick part. But you know, the man of tomorrow who shows us it's cool to care. And you know, like what role could he hold in the modern world? Well, the fucking same role he's held for fucking 85 years. I think the world needs Superman now more than ever. You know? He's just as relevant now as he was in fucking 1938.
Oh, yeah.
Or the 1940s when he was fighting Hitler. Or whatever the fuck he was doing.
Yeah, dude. I really enjoyed the movie. It actually has some nice, some funny moments, too. Like,
you can't not like it.
Like, when that cop goes into the station, he's like, yeah, man, this guy was flying, man. You got to believe me. And the sergeant does not believe him. Dude, he tells him, go back to the bar, you know. They go outside. There's a fucking boat in the street, and Superman's flying off. And he's like, you know what? First bottle's on me. Yeah. That shit was funny.
I was laughing at the black guy because I was laughing because I thought you were going to bring it up. But when he first, saves Lois, and the guy's like, oh, man, Jim, that's a nice outfit. But still, like, there's a chick falling from a building. Superman takes a second to be like, thank you, sir, and just fucking does his thing. Like, you can't not like the movie because it's so fucking, like, warm and welcoming. So Marvin, I ask you one last question. Do you believe a man can fly now?
I believe.
It's a bold statement. You'll believe a man can fly, and the world did and still does.
Yeah.
85 years later, this guy's still going strong. Would you believe that? But yeah, so Superman on IMDb at 7.4. This is getting bumped for me, baby. This is an 8.5. Let's go.
Ooh, shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would probably I'll bump it up to an 8.
Okay.
It's a solid 8 for me.
I'm glad you liked it, Marvin. I was a little nervous at first.
Solid 8.
8? Okay.
Yep.
I was a little nervous when I saw the runtime, but it was good. The pacing was good.
You don't even really feel that it's that long.
Highest total average for sure I think we've ever done.
Philosophically, what does Superman represent to people?
A friend, and that's what people really need most. They don't need a strong arm, one-man vigilante force. You need a friend. We're living we're living in an age when people are basically afraid of contact with each other. They're afraid. People live in cities, they don't even know their neighbors. They're afraid to go out in the street. Something might happen to them. Even the bank doesn't know who you are, and it's like, we run around scared a lot, particularly those of us who live in cities. And America was founded on the virtues of a helping hand, of going 5 miles to lend your neighbor a donkey or whatever he needed. And I think that is that kind of virtue that's at the bottom. That's the heart of Superman. The genuine love of people, and that you always know he's your friend.